Hello. Two episodes today, back to two, and I never say never, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be two episodes at a time from now on. But you never know. The two episodes are the tale of the shiny red bicycle and the tale of the magician's assistant. Uh, the one of the Midnight Society kids. Hopefully, I will never forget his name again. Uh, has his bike stolen. His name is David. So I can picture David, Kiki, Kristen, Eric, Gary, Betty Ann, Frank. I think that's all of them. So I think that almost to the end of season two, and I have learned their names. By the way, the malevolent supernatural force I live with pointed out that they seem to have ditched the mid-story cut back to the Midnight Society that they did in season one. So interesting. I think I'd kind of thought that, but didn't think to think it actively until she pointed it out. It's just something to mention in watching these things in sequence, according to Wikipedia, if not Paramount Plus. So David's late to the meeting where he's supposed to tell the story because his bike was stolen. And I don't know if it was stolen that day and he had expected to be able to ride it and therefore couldn't make alternate plans in time, or what. I didn't catch that if that's revealed. But he decided to use it as fodder for his story, and if he had to walk to the Midnight Society place instead of ride the bike, then he had plenty of time to come up with a story in that short time. So let's see. So his bike is stolen, and so he tells a story about a kid who loved his bike so much that he took it with him even to the grave. The kid in question's name is Ricky, and so we start with what turns out to be a dream with a younger version of the character Mike, who we're going to follow through the episode, and the character Ricky going over a bridge with a rickety wooden railing. Now, what I think is happening, they're talking about it being the beginning of the fishing season, and the story takes place in real time at the beginning of the fishing season in the future from this scene some years later, and it seems to take place on a canal runoff or maybe a river runoff, like a kind of concrete path for water to take so that the river doesn't overflow. I guess they fish at the river, and this makes sure that the river doesn't overflow. One of my favorite areas of the Erie Canal is where one of the runoff sections is. Just a little bit about me amidst all the Are You Afraid of the Dark? So we open with the guy in charge of opening the runoff because in the wintertime the water level goes down. So I guess spring fishing season, the water level is going to go up. And so he opens up the runoff and lets some of the water go. And as the water is gushing from the river, the wooden railing gives way, and Ricky and his shiny red bicycle fall into the river. The bike goes right in. Ricky kind of, Mike catches him and holds him by the arm, but little kids aren't the strongest, and it's wet and slippery, and I think Ricky's wearing, seems to be a rain jacket, so a slicker material, and Ricky ultimately falls, and that would be very traumatic, and it turns out it is, because this is a nightmare that Mike is having. He has them regularly, and so he wakes up again at the beginning of the fishing season, but years later, he's much older, and he's apparently been having these dreams, but something new starts to happen at this particular time, because he starts to see in the bike rack at school, he sees the shiny red bicycle, and he looks away, looks back, this thing that always happens, and then it's actually a different bicycle. Then Ricky appears in the classroom where, what are they talking about? I think they're talking about the space race. They're talking about the astronauts who went to the moon. And Ricky shows up, coming in the door, reaching for um, reaching for Mike, uh, and then Mike kind of freaks out. He had been zoning out, but then he freaks out, um, and the teacher has some kind of smart remark or something that she says. I don't know. Not as bad as the teacher, how the teacher was treated in the episode about the typewriter, but not necessarily the nicest portrayal of teachers. But again, on the one hand, Nickelodeon is for kids, and kids see teachers as ridiculous and a little villainous. But on the other hand, wouldn't you want the stuff that kids are seeing to reinforce positive things about it? I don't know. Maybe this is why I haven't been asked to write children's television. I don't understand it, but I think I'm getting a good grasp of it. Anyway, after freaking out in the classroom, he goes to the nurse's office. I guess he might bump his head because she has him keep ice on his neck, or lower head, back of his head. And it is when talking to the nurse that we find out that Ricky's body was never found, and neither was his bike. Then he sees both Ricky and the bike out the window of the nurse's office, and then in the office, just Ricky reaching out to him. And so this is where we I guess Mike's father comes to get him, and it turns out he's going to miss the first day of fishing season, which he hasn't done, not even the year that Ricky died. But he's talking about he's going to miss it because he has been told he has to get rest and relaxation. And he reinforces the necessity of the rest and relaxation by having his father follow a girl who's riding a shiny red bike that looks like Ricky's bike, and she's wearing a rain slicker with her hood up. It could be Ricky, and his father indulges in this for some reason, follows her. And then he gets out of the car and goes after her and grabs her by the arm and pulls down her hood, and we find out it's a girl who is alive, not a ghost of Ricky. And this is not as big of a deal as it would be today in that episode. Let me just see if I can. Okay. So we see him in bed later, and he's getting his thing. And I guess the father's in a hurry to go somewhere. Then they're going to be late. And so when his mother says, "Oh, he's at 96 degrees or something at the thermometer," his father says, "Great. When he hits 100, we'll sell." And a joke I don't think any kid's going to get. They kind of semi-explain it in the episode. It has to do with selling stocks, of course, and but it's kind of like what you hear about in kids' movies where they hide jokes for the adults, except this time they try to explain it to the kids, but kids don't necessarily know what stocks are, so saying it has to do with stocks, so they kind of half explain it, but it also seems like kind of a waste of dialogue. Mike later dreams that the ghost of Ricky is in the room. He has plotted with his little brother Ben. I wrote down his name. He plots with Ben to wake him up so that he can go on the first day of fishing day anyway. But he sleeps through, or their father catches Ben on his way to wake him up, and doesn't know that's what he's doing, but he can't then very well go and do it. So he tries throwing rocks at the window, and eventually he's told to just go and do it as his father backs out of the driveway to, I guess, go somewhere else. Let's see. When Mike does wake up, the ghost of Ricky lures him out into the yard and explains to him that Ben is in danger, and that's what he's been trying to warn him about. And gives Mike his shiny red bike, which Mike is able to then ride to the fishing spot. Where at the fishing spot we see Ben. We see that the bridge is condemned. It's got gates around it. People aren't allowed to walk across it because it's dangerous. And Ben accidentally kicks some kid's soda, so that kid then throws it looks like a ball. Maybe it's one of those things that bobs up on the surface of the water when you're fishing, uh, to the area of the runoff uh, that is right under the bridge. So essentially, the spot where Ricky fell. Um, and Ben goes to retrieve it and gets his foot caught in some rocks. And it's one of those situations, a common foot caught in rocks thing in kids' shows where I guess we're supposed to assume that the kids just aren't strong enough to move the rocks. But then when the bigger kid comes along, or any adult could easily move the rocks, but the little kid can't move the rocks, that he gets his rain boot and foot stuck in. And Ben arrives riding right before right before Mike leaves the ghost of Ricky. They tell each other they miss each other, and that's very sweet. And that is where I remembered that I had seen the episode. It's that detail is what I remembered. Mike arrives on the red bike. He moves the rocks. Ben says his foot really hurts, and Mike says, "Well, I don't know if it's sprained or broken, but we'll get you some help." And then he looks over at the bike, and the bike is rusted, but the rubber of the wheels still looks brand new. And then later, we are told that Ricky's body was found. So it's kind of a unfinished business, like Ricky's remains were in hiding until he could use his physical remains in the living plane to help to save. I mean, he says to Mike, "We're not ready for Ben on this side yet," which is a very eerie thing to say. So that's Shiny Red Bicycle, which I have seen, and I liked it very much. Ricky's not the most frightening ghost that we've seen. Not like the little girl in the early Haunted House episode, and not like the Frozen Ghost, but it's okay. So, the Magician's Assistant, and this one I recognized because the magic wand is a kind of twisted tree trunk thing, and it looked, I was thinking vines initially, like dried vines and stiffened vines, but then the main kid, Todd, replaces it with a tree, like a potted tree that his mom had around with a twisted. I think I don't know what they're called. I want to say money trees, but he essentially replaces it with that. So I don't think I have mentioned, maybe in a video like when I was first doing videos, but I have a wand collection, and I intend one day to have a wand stand, which will essentially just be essentially a small umbrella stand, and therefore a vase or something, but small enough that the wand will stick out the top. And now I am determined to get a kind of twisty, woven, braided wand. Like, maybe I'll make it myself, like braided, and then I guess I'd have to treat them vines and sticks. But this is something that I came up with watching this episode. So it's a Gary story. He likes magic, and I think they start talking early in the episode. They're talking about a teacher that two of them have. I think Frank and Betty Ann have this teacher, and Gary says, "Oh, I know that teacher," and they say, "No, you don't know the teacher. I guess they go to different schools or whatever." And Gary says, "No, he comes into my dad's magic shop, and he buys magic tricks. Calls himself the Great Something. I go the Great Dago, or not Dago probably, but Drago or something like that. It has to do with his name." And this gets Gary into his story, which is about a magician, not a magic shop. So the magician here is Shandu, and Todd, the kid that I mentioned, he answers a job ad to be Shandu's magician's assistant, hence the title. And Shandu warns Todd not to touch the wand unless Shandu himself hands it to him, because a magician's not supposed to touch another magician's wand unless it is handed to him by that magician. And he mentions deadites and the lore of the wand. And I'm sure Todd doesn't take any of this seriously, because why would he? He's been hired to be an assistant to a guy who puts on, as we can see, magic shows for children's birthday parties. So they have a rehearsal montage, and gradually Todd stops making mistakes. The incantation is Shandu can do, and this is just all-purpose thing. And before their first big performance for a children's birthday party, Shandu gives Todd the bow tie that he wore on his first performance. And he's an old magician. We don't know exactly how old, because as we find out, there's actual magic involved here. But it's a bow tie from a tuxedo that he used. And he says, he laments that he used to be the toast of Broadway. He performed for royalty in Europe, and he was in movies, which I'm not sure if that's something that a magician would brag about necessarily, because with movies, even if the magic is real, it's going to be assumed to be the magic of the movies, stagecraft, filmcraft, and all that sort of thing. Oh, and by the way, the setup is that it's kind of like the setup for that one where there's a demon in the basement that gives you what you want if you give it sacrifices, which is that Todd's family is down on its luck. I don't remember if the father just left or is dead, but Todd takes the job to earn extra money to help his mother, who does storyboards for, I guess, cartoons. I'm not sure. And they have their first performance, and after the first performance for a birthday party, Todd goes back to the wagon at one point, and it's overrun by all the animals that Shandu keeps around. And he takes the wand and he uses it. He just points it in no general, just anywhere, because the animals are all around. He just points it at something and says Shandu can do, and the animals all go back in their cages. And then Shandu returns, and Todd lies about, everything's fine. But then later on, but why did he think that the magic wand would actually work? Does he believe in magic? I don't know if we've established that he actually believes that magic is real, but he doesn't seem to until this moment. So he goes home, and that night, his mother says that on her way out of work, she was given a brand new assignment that now she has to pull another all-nighter. So she says, "Wake me up in an hour," and he goes to get the wand, and then he brings it back, and he makes the storyboards happen so that his mom doesn't have to pull an all-nighter. And I guess she goes grocery shopping instead. At that point, a spirit appears to tell Todd that he should use the wand as much as he wants, and that he can do great things with it. And then Shandu catches Todd trying to switch the wand. That's where he had switched the wand, because he was going to take it for an extended period. He had switched it with his mom's tree, which looks like the wand. So when he's trying to switch it back, Shandu catches him and tells him about Nazarek, a demon imprisoned in a vortex. And if Todd uses the wand enough, I guess the demon will escape, and the Dark Ages will return. So Shandu then fires Todd, banishes him from the thing, and Todd is on his way away, but he realizes he's still got the bow tie, and he says, I should give this special bow tie back to the guy if I'm not going to work for him anymore. It's his bow tie from his first performance. I'll go give it back. Maybe he thinks that he'll ingratiate himself that way. He returns, finds the wagon seemingly on fire, and uses the wand to fix it, but that releases the Nazarek, and it turns out the Nazarek was just showing him what he needed to see in order to do what the Nazarek wanted him to do. I feel like I'm talking about a villain from Animorphs. Um, but the Nazarack still has to get the wand away from Todd. Todd runs away. He gets home, sees his mom there, but the mom turns out to be the Nazarack. Uh, and then uh, Todd knows that, as Shandu said, and Shandu has been banished to the vortex where the Nazarack was. There's a lot more lore here than I think there usually is. Todd knows that the Nazarack can't just take the wand; it has to be handed to him, and so he hands it to the Nazarack in exchange for the Nazarack promising not to harm his mother. And the Nazarack says, does a thing where I did never promise not to harm you, and Todd tricks him into zapping the mirror, which then the zap goes back and hits the Nazarack. He is pulled into the mirror, Shandu is released from the mirror, and Shandu bequeaths the wand to Todd, makes it officially his, and that is where we leave things. It is a Todd is now the keeper of this magic. Hopefully there will be more learning directly from Shandu. I think Shandu might just disappear. But that's those 2 episodes. The next 2 are the tale of the hatching. Don't remember just from the title what that is. That's a David, and I remember that David is the one who told the shiny red bicycle because he lost his bicycle. And the tale of Old Man Corcoran, storyteller Kiki, and let's see. Oh, it says, note this is David and Kristen's final episode. Oh, that's too bad. I'm going to miss them. Well, I'll miss Kristen because she was so theatrical. So there's that. And yeah, those are the last 2 episodes of season 2. And I will be back here to talk about them on Monday. And tomorrow is Fairy Tale Friday. It's about elves and the various things that they do. In the meantime, pleasant dreams, everyone.